We're on with Maurice Luca. ايه اخبار man?
كله تمام.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
So the primary purpose of this interview is going to be talking about recording, engineering, which is your main occupation. But first I have to ask, how are things on the ground in Egypt? How are things? There's people still in Tahrir, right?
Yes, there's people in Tahrir and in front of the ministry. The numbers are getting much less now.
There's calls from the general population to
But not just the general population, even from amongst people like activists and organizations and political parties who started the sit-in. That's not necessarily now the time, and there's other calls for other things, and so the numbers, it's not as strong a sit-in as it started.
Okay.
I mean, unfortunately now a lot of people are like focusing on the elections.
Mm-hmm. And you say this is unfortunate because the elections came too soon?
It's not about it coming too soon. I think the elections are legitimate somehow. I think as long as the military council, as long as we're ruled by the army, I think it's quite irrelevant whether to have elections or not. And I think at the end of the day, they're going to do what they want to do.
You think so?
Yeah, I'm pretty certain. Like, and they even said if in 6 months the parliament, a lot of this terminology I don't know in English, so if I say wrong stuff, you can correct me, Sami. But like,
Okay.
if in 6 months they don't elect or like not elect, like if they don't put together a council to write up the constitution, the army is going to do it themselves. The military
Yeah.
council,
They're still sticking by that, huh?
yeah. So I think that this elections is irrelevant. Like, I think that regardless of the outcome, as long as ruled by the military, I don't think the parliament will have any kind of what's the word in English?
Actual power.
Actual power, exactly. When the Islamists, of course, in the first round, they got more than people thought. Like, I think there's like 40 something Ikhwan and 20 Salaf.
Okay, now that's to clear up. It's the Ikhwan is the Muslim Brotherhood, and the Salaf is the Salafi party, who would be much more extreme.
Like neo-Nazis.
Yeah, yeah, they're the real fundamentalist Muslims who are gonna throw women in burqas and stuff like that. Maybe.
Exactly. So there was some talk that now they're negotiating to have the parliament have more power with the army. But just today, like I was reading this article that says the army is still sticking by that it's probably going to write up the constitution to protect the secular and civil Egypt as a secular and civil country.
As a secular civil country.
And so I think at the end of the day, it was a very, very difficult decision to work out the elections. I'm not really self-assured by that decision. I can't really say I did the right one or wrong one. And there was a big debate amongst everyone whether to go vote or not. I decided not to in the end, but maybe it might not be the right. There's a lot of arguments both ways, and
yeah.
And it was, I guess, lesser of both evils, whatever.
So okay, just my question is, as a Coptic Christian, is your community concerned about anything? I mean, overall, wouldn't you prefer the military to stay in power and to keep it a secular society? Because what happens if, especially the Salafi party, comes into power? It seems like it might be worse.
Well, I mean, the military just ran over.
The
Coptic demonstration a few months ago. Since the military has been in power, I think there's been more church violence and more church. I can't remember the exact number. Maybe 6 or 7 churches have been burned since. The military has shown, if anything, that it's probably like it's under military rule in that 7 months. Things have been even probably worse for Copts. And I think they're disillusioned completely by that. I think Copts are probably, at the moment, one of the most anti-army communities. Whether they're afraid of the Salafis, of course. I mean, there's a general feel, but that's been going on since since Mubarak. I mean, this is part of Mubarak's strategy.
To divide the Muslims and the Christians with fake bombings of churches.
Used the Muslim Brotherhood as a kind of a card to, like, if it's not us, it's them, and not only with Christians, with businessmen and people who work in tourism sectors, and I think it's I can't really. I'm not really that close to the church, and I can't really talk on behalf of anyone.
Okay.
Me personally, I'm not afraid of. I would rather see the army go regardless of who comes to
Yeah.
power. I think if we manage to achieve some of the goals of the revolution, we will have power. I don't think anyone will be able to control Egypt the way it was controlled before, and I think regardless of who comes, he's going to have to. Um, if, of course, we achieve some of the goals of the revolution, anyone who comes through a democratic process, even if it's slightly flawed, but not under military rule, I think we'll be able to deal with, and I think we'll be have better
Okay.
conditions and have a better say as the whole population, and I'm
Okay.
sure as Christians as well. But
Well, thank you
yeah,
so much for speaking so articulately about this. Before we go on to audio engineering, I just want to make one point that something I've observed is that I think the reason this didn't turn into Bashar Assad in Syria with just gunning you guys down is because that the American, the American state so thoroughly, sponsors the Egyptian military, provides all the weapons and is the ultimate guarantor of their power. That's the reason that you guys weren't gunned down. So I just wanted to say, you're
yeah.
welcome. You're welcome.
It's funny that you mentioned the American art. I mean, to bring that in, because
The tear
just
gas?
just
Oh.
a week ago with the tear gas, yeah, like was intercepted in Suez Canal, like and 70 tons of tear gas, American tear gas being sent.
Oh. And
While
I'm sure you know this, but that is a military grade weapon. Like the Paris Convention forbids its use
yeah,
outside,
but
like on
apparently,
population.
apparently Egypt's one of the few countries that did not sign up to that treaty or something like that. To that
Oh, God. And
chemical.
America didn't sign up to it.